Okay, I don't want you guys to like be sitting over here. You guys come up from the front over here. You come from the back over there, please. Come forward. That's okay. That's all right. You know, yeah, we're all right. Yeah, sure. These things are not like, it's not stage. So those guys come forward. At least you want to use it. Anybody want to use one of these to write on? Yes. I got it. Don't worry about it. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Somebody find me an eraser, please.
At the corner.
Oh, Jazakallah khair. Barakallahu feekum. I just got down here in my car. It broke right out here in the parking lot. So I need some help after class.
What happened?
Something's wrong with the brakes. I think the brakes locked on the tire or something.
Cal.
Brake caliper.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't even know. But help me out after class because I got here and then as I turn this, I go and the car crawled to a stop and I have to like force it into the spot. You ready to get started?
No.
Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Our introduction today, or our point of gain your attention, is about brain food. You know, last time we were talking, I mentioned about our diet is important. One of the things, like I don't drink cold water, okay? And I don't suggest people to do so. And I just did some research just before I came to class just about that particular issue. Cold or icy water makes your body constrict. And it's actually against your brain's health to drink cold water. You know, with the ice and everything like that. Because it makes all those things like this, and it really takes a longer time for you to absorb the water. Now, brain energy, or the ability for the brain to operate well, can be disrupted by just a 2% dehydration of the brain. Soda, tea, coffee, none of those things are water. Because what has to happen is the body has to filter out those other things just to get the water. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that filtering process, guess what it needs? Water. Okay? In order for that to take place. The people who do the brain scans and all those things like that, they say that Alzheimer's and dementia is only 6% genetic. Okay? But 96% diet. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It is 96%, or no, it's 94% diet, 6% genetic. So all the things we find out, my grandfather had Alzheimer's, or this person has it, that it's only 6% of those people we find families having it. Even if it's in the families, half the time it's due to the diet. The family diet, not the family blood, genetics. Does everybody follow me?
Yes.
So, if you want to do anything, just take away one takeaway: drink more water, drink less cold water. And if we look at the Sunnah, the Prophet ﷺ used to have a container in his home, and he used to fill the container with water and let the water sit overnight before he would drink from the water. Okay? Now, we have containers nowadays that are plastic. I do not suggest plastic containers. Okay? Plastic is something that holds on to the chemical or whatever you put in there. Okay? And this can become harmful over time. And water in plastic, once it gets hot, it leaks some of the chemicals into the water. And this is also harmful for our minds. Okay? Now, we're talking about Alzheimer's. Okay? Also, the food you eat. There's this one geneticist, she says that the Western diet doubles your chance for having and catching Alzheimer's. Whereas what they call a Middle Eastern diet, which is more of the vegetables. It's like a pseudo, it's not vegetarian, but it has smaller portions of meat in it. Okay? Sorry? I can't, Mediterranean is what they call a Mediterranean diet, you know, which is basically, you know, Greek, Italian, North African. They all eat the same thing. Hummus, you know, it's a Muslim diet. Basically, if you see what we eat a lot of times with the different vegetables mixed with olive oil and those types of things, hummus and those things like that, where the food is touchable, as opposed to what they call processed food. Now, that is an Islamic issue. Why is it an Islamic issue? You raised your hand, okay? What was it? What's the Islamic issue? How is it tied to? You're, yes, ma'am.
It's an Islamic issue because it goes back to Islam has come to preserve and protect, prioritize, and always respect our deen, our mind, our wealth, our honor, our dignity, ourselves.
So, in two issues alone, drinking water, eating, and proper foods are tied to your Islam has come to recite it to me.
Islam has come to preserve and protect, prioritize, and always respect my deen, my mind.
It's not my mind. Okay? We're talking about brain health. Okay? Protecting our brain health. What you put in there is what's going to cause whatever's going to happen, the consequence, right? My deen, my mind.
My will, my religion,
myself. Just like we can't take a gun and commit suicide, we can't, they call it suicide by cop, a guy who runs out and doesn't have a gun, but he runs in front of the police with something that looks like a gun. They call that suicide by cop, right? Because you know they're going to shoot you in the first place, right? It's also suicide by spoon, where you eat yourself to death. Another thing that we should talk about is, what's the thing that you eat in the morning time? What do they call that? Breakfast. Break fast. Pay attention to the language. A lot of time, you know, mostly non-whites do not realize that English is a language. Okay? It's not our language. Okay? If you look up an Englishman, it ain't gonna have a picture of you. Never. Get over it. Okay? So English is a language, and language words have what? Meanings, okay? So sometimes we use this language not realizing the meanings of the word. What do we call the thing we eat in the morning? Break fast, which means it's not the nature of man to eat when? During the night. And all of us who are at least 50 and older should remember when the kitchen got shut down. Who remembers that? Everybody remembers that, right? There was a time when we ate dinner before 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, right? Because 8 o'clock was late for dinner, okay? But we ate at around between, let's say, 5 o'clock to 7 was where you could find the dinner time. And someone who rang the doorbell at that time better not be my friend. He get me in trouble, right? You ring the doorbell, don't they know where they are, who they mama? You know, that's what my mother was saying. And I'm like, please don't be none of my friends ringing the doorbell at that time. So, because you were not allowed to do anything but eat your food at that time. And then after that time, what did you do? You fasted. You did a pseudo fast. You might get some water. You might, if you were up, get a cup of water, or half a cup of water and a cookie or something small. And it was like a cookie or two, not a whole row. Right? Everybody knows what I'm talking about. So we have become the definition of gluttons. Okay, back in the days, when we were young, we would have considered that person a glutton. They ate 5 cookies. Wasn't that extreme? So what happened to that? Advertisement. Advertisement. Da'wah is what happened to it. We started to receive da'wah. We didn't protect ourselves from da'wah. Okay, meaning by presenting something which made sense, we didn't think about what was being told to us, and we began to imitate the da'wah, the call. And it has adverse effects on our deen. Okay? It has, because now when you're so full, you can't get up at night. Okay? You can't get up at Fajr. What happens to the person who sleeps from Isha to Fajr and doesn't get up to offer Salah? Even one raka'ah.
Shaitan urination is here.
Say it louder.
Shaitan urination is here.
Say it again.
Shaitan urination is here.
Shaitan urinates in his ear. Is this disgusting?
Yes.
Do you believe it?
Yes.
So then if you believe that a devil is coming to your house at nighttime and is urinating, not on your foot, not on your bed, but in your ear, and there is something you can do to prevent it, then why aren't you doing it? I don't want anybody to answer me. Okay? But we need to think about reality. I know why we're not doing it. You know why we're not doing it? Because we're distracted. Okay? We get distracted, and because we're distracted, we forget about that. Okay? Every night we forget it. We don't think about it. Are we humans?
Yes. Yes.
What's the definition of a human? The competent adult?
The conscientious one.
The competent adult is the conscientious one. Aware of?
Every ruling on whatever they once done.
So then he understands the ruling, and he's aware of what's going to happen. And so he prepares, or she prepares for that by doing the things that would enable them to do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted them to do, to prevent the harm. So the hardships and harms
Have to be removed.
isn't that a hardship and a harm? And it's tied to what you eat. It's all connected to our eating. And it affects our mood. And didn't we learn what is the first thing Shaitan did to get us off our square? What?
Go eat from the tree.
I wasn't going to say the apple because we don't know what fruit it was. So the ulama are very clear not to say the apple in and of itself. Because we start taking apples and throwing them, you know. Nah, but ate something. He used food in order to alter our nature, our natural nature. And he's still using food to alter our nature. That is his main tool, is to use food to entice us to eat this type of food. And we can do something about it. So, anything you multiply, is this information or knowledge? It all depends.
Right now.
It all depends, right? It all depends on what?
What you do with
What you multiply it by. What action you multiply. Now we're talking physics, right? Now if you multiply this by no motion, no action, 0, what's it going to equal up to?
0.
Information, right? Now you multiply it by some action. You take one, eat half the row. You know, you start. You gotta start somewhere. And then you'll find it multiplying and coming up with the sum, some type of result. Now, I don't know if I said this before, but it's in my notes here. Reasons make results. Okay? So the reason, you have to have a good reason. If you don't have a good reason, you have no good result. You won't even have well, there'll be a result, but it won't be a positive result. Okay? But if you have a good reason, then you will see that affect the result. The reason why we're not talking Arabic or having this conversation in Swahili or Hausa, which is more of our language of the people in here, is because we haven't realized the benefit of that. So it's not a reason, even though brothers talk all day long about reparations, right? Reparations, down with the white man and all this other nonsense. But I don't see nobody stopping you from learning your language now. Are you still enslaved? Is there some white man stopping you from learning your language? No. Okay, then why don't you know it? There's not a good enough reason, is it? Okay, we'd rather talk the talk as opposed to take physical steps. You know, the country Belgium. You guys familiar with Belgium?
Yeah.
What's their national language? No, it's not Russian. French. French, thank you. Okay. No, but you need to know the globe. It's your planet. You know the world.
That's right.
So, you have French. Why is their language French? Because they were conquered by the Norwegians, Dutch, and they were like, listen, we're not going to talk their language. When they got their independence, they said, we're not going to talk the language that they used to enslave us. And so they didn't speak French. The majority of their people are ethnic, or was it Walloons or Flemings, which speak Dutch. Now we ain't going to talk that. To show as a move to our independence, we're going to talk a different language than they used to enslave us. Where are we with that? Why do we drive on the right side of the street here in the United States? Because the United States of America said to prove our independence from the British, we're going to drive on the opposite side of the street that they do over there.
You drive on the left.
Well, sorry?
You on the left.
Is that what we're on? Whatever side it is. Whatever side it is, they drive on the opposite side.
You mean the side of the road?
And even with the steer, whatever. The point is, you guys know the point. Every time I'm in Britain, the car comes over here, I'm like, whoa. Because it's different. Same thing with the light switch. Why do our light switch go up? In England, the light switch goes up means to turn it off. And you put it down to turn it up. If you look at the reason that they said we're going to oppose them in everything. Isn't that from Islam?
Yeah.
Didn't the Prophet ﷺ say they'll always be good? They'll always be good. They'll always be good. They said, Fima ya Rasulullah. And what? As long as you oppose the Jews and the Nasara. Right? As long as there's distinction in your practice as Muslims. So, lots of times we have what looks like problems and we push the problem to someone else as being the cause of the problem. Well, they ain't the problem, you the problem. The problem is you lazy. The problem is you rather complain. You won't get off your butt and do nothing. You're not willing to step on a grape in a fruit fight. But we want to talk that talk like we the killer from Manila. And if you want to do something, let's do some practical things. Things that will make immediate change in not only our quality of life, in our quality of sleep. You get my point? Some real reason in our activities. And you're not alone. The whole world seems to be, there's a bunch of people depressed and sad. And don't do that, brother. Don't come into class and start talking.
I'm sorry.
That's what you should ask me, because I don't want nobody talking. I was going to mention it to somebody else. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but go ahead.
It's okay.
What's up?
It's a lady out here looking for a brother named Jamat.
Go find out what's going on. Oh, the chef is whoever's going to take care of it. There's a lot of people, I'm sorry, people. There's a lot of people who are saddened by their state of affairs. And they are projecting. Okay? What does that mean?
Acting out.
No, that's not what I mean.
Blame it on something else.
Blame it on something else and not realizing that most people, psychologists, you got the psychiatrists here and everything like that, most people are not mad about what someone else did. What are most people mad about?
What they did.
What they did not do. Okay? What they didn't do or what they did and they didn't like that they did it that way. They wish they would have done it somewhere. You see where the blame is, where the hurt is? So let's stop projecting and saying, yo, so-and-so, that dirty, nasty, stinking so-and-so. And let's look, what can I do? What can I do practically to change the real change and put quality in my life from right this moment going forward? Life is really alive if you think about it. When there's activity, okay? Sedentary, they say, is a new cigarette, okay? Not doing anything, sitting around and not doing anything. So let's make those changes, okay? Let's get started. Now I told you guys I'm going to talk today. I'm going to read my notes from years ago, inshallah ta'ala. And I want you guys to take notes. Someone's going to have to help him because he's not going to be able to take notes. So he's going to have to share with someone. Last time we stopped at
The science.
sorry.
The sciences.
The sciences are only four. There's chemistry, biology, physics, and geology, right?
I said really only one, biology.
Well, yeah. Well, but they're all chemistry is biology, right? Physics is the action of biology, you know. So they all are. Geology is the same thing. The planet is alive, but those four are the main, what they call the earth sciences, and from them all the other sciences are combination sciences. Okay. So here we're talking about the adab of the talib al-ilm with himself here. This is the next thing on this page here. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
With himself?
Well, see what I'm reading.
We did.
No. What I'm reading is my notes that I took 10 years ago, or 20 years ago actually. And they cover a wide range of the different things in not the particular order that I'm giving them now. Okay? So one of the things we did, we started doing the adab of the talib al-ilm with himself, adab of the talib al-ilm with his shaykh. Now we have 3 more to do. But in between that, I'm going to read all these things, which touch on all 5 of those, but in a different order. Does everybody make sense? Yeah. So this is more than what we mentioned and mixed in what we mentioned and stuff like that. So we're not going back, we're just running through. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The adab of the talib al-ilm fi nafsihi. Al-ilmu ibadah. Know that knowledge is ibadah. Knowledge is a form of ibadah. It said, next thing I wrote, kun salafiyan, meaning be salafi, meaning follow the way of the people of the past. Now we have to make a point here because, you know, I wrote this in I think it was 1999, okay? There was no Salafi cult then. Nowadays there's a Salafi cult along with the people who are actually following the Salaf. We don't want to mix the two up. That group of rude boys who will go around that I believe is being projected by some hidden hand, promoting dissension amongst the ummah and saying really foolish things, saying this one is off it and that one. That's not what we're talking about when we talk about Salafi. That's the Salafi cult, okay? When we say here, follow the Salaf, we mean by that, follow Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, and after that you have a choice. Follow the well-known scholars of the past and how they learned. Take from where they took from. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, and stay away from this this particular, just because they use the word Salafi does not mean that they are following the Salaf. Just like Farrakhan uses the word what? Islam. Nation of Islam. Do we at all, at every moment, think that he's a Muslim? No. So then we need to not be afraid to call a spade a spade. Does that make sense? Mulazimat al-khashyati Allahi ta'ala. To be sticking to having a true fear of Allah. Like some of this you've heard before, right? Ad-dawam al-muraqaba. Al-muraqaba is to take self-evaluation of yourself. What can I do better? Muraqaba, I learned this growing up in New York. In New York, it's a business city, okay? Every year, Macy's closes down for like 2 weeks, I think, a week or 2 weeks. But during that time, they would hire a lot of kids from high school. So we used to go get jobs there. What they're doing is you're taking everything that didn't sell. You go into the storerooms, they're taking all the clothes and everything that they didn't sell, and they're marking it down for like 30%, 20%, almost free. Why? This is muraqabah. They're looking at what they had in the store that is worthless to them, that they don't need, and they're getting rid of it and still trying to make a profit, or even not a profit, just break even. What we're supposed to do every year is look at ourselves. What qualities do I still have that are worthless? Okay? What qualities habits that I have that are hurting me, that are preventing me from being alive in true sense of the word, from being happy within myself and feeling honored that every step I'm doing is in consistency with what I actually say I believe in. And I'm not mad at myself, which is depression, because my heart is saying one thing and my mind is something else. And so there's this cognitive dissonance between myself and my heart. My heart saying, hey, I thought we were Muslim. Yeah, but everybody's doing this. We got to do this. We make more money if we do this. You get my point, guys?
Yes.
So holding on to the purity of the heart is what we want to do. And we want to search for all those things that are damaging, that the heart feels is not correct, and we get rid of them. We don't sell them like Macy's. We just get rid of them, throw them out with the trash.
Wasn't that what Ramadan should be for?
No. He said, is it Ramadan for that? Good question. No. Every moment you think about it.
You ain't guaranteed to get Ramadan.
Of course, that's the reason why. But my Shaykh, he's Shaykh Abu Bakr al-Job, Hafidhullah al-Muratani, he used to say that it's called Tajdidun Niyyah, renewing your intention. That's what you do. Al-Muraqabah is to change your intention and to purify it. Why? Because when you started off, you were not knowledgeable, so you might have had a bad intention or an incorrect intention. So when you learn more, Tajdidun Niyyah, change your intention, correct your intention. You learn more, change your intention. If you think for a moment, renew your intention. Because Shaitan gets in there and tries to, you waswisu fi suduri nas. So you make it new. No, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I'm this. What we call it, the inside out theory. Right? It will happen when I believe it'll happen. Okay? And by me constantly saying it, I'm programming myself to make it happen. It's not faking it till you're making it. We're nothing phony about us. 100%. But we're programming ourselves. We're killing all those negative thoughts. We don't say, I can't. No, I'm getting better at this. I'm working at this. We change our language to reflect positive as opposed to constantly beating ourselves up and programming ourselves to fail. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does that answer your question? Khafdul jinah, being humble, lowering our, one time Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu, a blind man came up to him and thought he did something wrong and hit Abu Bakr in the head and then grabbed him, and Abu Bakr started bleeding. But Abu Bakr knew this old man was blind, and he started laughing. He said, what's the problem? Now at this time Abu Bakr was the Khalifa, and he's bleeding from his head, and the old man said, you tricked me. And he thought that Abu Bakr was Nu'man ibn Bashir. Okay, Nu'man ibn Bashir tricked the man to almost urinate in the masjid. He said, let me walk you around. Okay, you're outside. And then the man, and then he, how hard it is to hold yourself. And the man said, well, I see him. Then the man came up to him and said, there he goes right there, and changed his voice. And when Abu Bakr was coming, he hit Abu Bakr upside the head and started bleeding. Yo, Abu Bakr's the Khalifa. He didn't get mad, you know who I am, right? He was like, he started laughing. He was a man about it. He had a sense of humor about it. He respected the old man in a way that some of us would not respect each other. Does that make sense?
Yes.
This is what it means, khafdul jinah. When I asked the Shaykh about this, because at this point he said, al-hilmu bit-tahallum. Al-hilmu bit-tahallum. And this comes from a longer hadith, says al-ilmu bit-ta'allum wal-hilmu bit-tahallum. So, al-ilmu bit-ta'allum. This is Arabic plain. Knowledge is got by ta'allum. What is ta'allum? It's like learning one letter at a time. Okay? Or learning one issue at a time. Okay? I call it taking footsteps. How many steps did it take you to get here? You don't know. But each one of them were vital. Right? And you had to fully put your foot down before you move to the next issue, meaning the next step. Knowledge is like that. You're not going to get the ultimate knowledge, the ultimate principle. But it's going to be little principles that you put together one after the other, And then when you explain something, it's based on all that long stream. Does that make sense? And likewise, al-hilmu bit-tahallum. I said, well, Aish, what's the difference of that? He said, he came close to me and I had a turban on, and he grabbed me by the turban. Now this man's over 80 years old. Nobody even knew how old he was. He didn't know. Okay? He grabbed me by the imama and yanked me all the way to the side. Some people jumped up like this. Okay? Because it was so surprising. And I moved my head like this. And he said, yeah, Abba Taubah. He said, why didn't you attack me? Why didn't you defend yourself? Okay? And I couldn't answer. He said, this is because of hilm. Khafdul jinah. This is lowering your will. You understand? Knowing that even though I hurt you, you're not going to do anything about it. And you're not going to be upset about it. You're just going to know, what's going on? Everybody follow me? This demands trust. This demands trust in yourself and trust in your brother. That only going to happen through interaction. Does that make sense? Afshu salama bainakum. Spreading the salams amongst yourself will also breed love and trust amongst yourselves. Another khuyala, throwing away delusions and mindsets of grandeur. We want to do so many great things, but we don't understand that great things are built on what? Smaller things. Okay? Every wilad, sikatil wilad, the sand dune is based on a little piece of sand. Every one, right? So which one made it so high? You get my point? That's the point. So if you want to get high as a sand dune, you have to do the small things and place them there. And placing those small things on top of other small things will eventually get so leaving off these delusions of grandeur. Okay? And dealing with what the ulama of the past used to say, you work locally while you think globally. You work locally while you think globally. Al-Kibriya, leaving off Kibriya, what does that mean? Al-Kibriya is being not just proudful. We use too many words like that. Al-Kibriya is to reject, looking down on people and rejecting the truth. So that means stop being a bigot. What is a bigot?
Person that thinks is better than someone else.
Okay, a bigot is someone who rejects information from anyone else except his crew. You get my point? That's a bigot in the sense of kibriya, because it's batal al-haq, right? It's to reject the truth when it comes from anybody but my man, my crew, our clique, his biya. You get my point? I'm only accepting from this one person. Regardless if you got the proof or whatever. This is called kibriya. And looking down on everybody else. This is the cult mentality. You guys get my point? Well, al-qana'a is being pleased with what you got. Okay? This is done by lowering your gaze. This is done by being grateful to Allah for what you have and not looking at what somebody else has. Az-zahada, which is the word of zuhd. Zuhd, again, is seeking to get what benefits you in the hereafter, primarily. Only focusing on what will benefit you in the hereafter. Does what will benefit you in the hereafter always benefit you in your dunya? Not necessarily. But you put that primary, that's the example of zuhd. It doesn't mean you don't get an expensive car. The Prophet ﷺ had the best camel. So it's like a Mercedes or whatever the nicest car would be. He had the top of the line camel, the top of the line ride. But he was the example of zuhd. Does that make sense? To carry yourself like you got some sense. Okay? That's what it's to carry yourself like you are somebody. Not like you are nobody. That's why I tell you, sit up. You know, look like you come from something and people will treat you like that. But guys come in, yo, splitting down and, you know, digging in your nose. You know, that don't look like you got no class. Like you know anything. Yeah. Uh-huh. What that sound like? Seriously. Sa'atin for sa'at. There's a time and a place for everything. Right? Fi kulli maqam. Every particular place has a particular type of speech. Okay? So now we have to go about carrying ourselves with some level of class. And not carrying ourselves like a bunch of street people. And let's be honest about that. We sometimes aggrandize the hood, the street, as though that is something we want to be. And some people may want to be there. Let them have it. It doesn't mean we want to be non-Muslim, okay, or that the picture of Islam has to be something that takes away from your culture. However, we do not aggrandize the lowest activities and habits of the people. But we pull to the best of the character, and that's taking the example of the Prophet ﷺ, his companions, and those that emulate them in ihsan. Islam is perfect, and the most perfect generation was one of the first three. Everybody else is wanting and has faults. Does that make sense? التمتع بخصال الرجولة. Being pleased to have manhood. We call it al-muru'ah. Al-muru'ah is not just manhood, it's chivalry, but it includes womanhood as well. Being a woman, being feminine. Being a man, and everything about rujuliyya. The Prophet ﷺ, he told them, don't let your sons wear shoes all the time. Why? So they can become rough. Don't mention comb their hair all the time. Why? Spending more time combing your hair, worrying about your coiffure than the woman do. It's not from the manhood. These guys get my point? Women nowadays sometimes make their voices, hey, what you know, no, don't sound like a man. And understand that that's what you're doing when you're making your voice deep. Keep it like a woman. You can find your way of attacking or fighting through the feminine qualities that Allah has given you. You never have to get loud and boisterous like a man to make your point, even to the children. And it's a psychological thing. But it's considered haram. Why? Because Allah curses the women that imitate the men and the men that imitate the woman. So even if you imitate in voicing, you know, in verbalization, then this becomes imitating the men like for the women and the men like her. Don't let them trick you with their homosexual doctrine. Oh, you have to have a feminine side. No, you're a man. You're a man. You don't have a feminine side. You have a human side. Okay, which is all of you, but it's expressed in a masculine fashion. And that is defined by Allah and His Messenger, not by these kuffar. So we have to consistently look to where we're getting our examples of what is correct and what is incorrect, because they take you step by step into that hole. Okay? Step is not an immediate thing, because we can see immediate change. But if I slightly change the road this way, you don't realize that it's curving. Does that make sense? And this is very important nowadays, because now in the schools, they're telling the children that there are 3 genders. Okay? And don't believe your parents. You can choose what you are. Then they blamed Hitler for that, right? Not for doing that same thing, but having children oppose their parents. Right? And now they're doing the same thing here. Okay? Now they started in California. They already did it in England. And now it's going to spread from there.
It's here.
It's already here in this county?
No, in Durham.
Alhamdulillah. You know? And see, this is interesting. I did not know that, because I don't send my children to the Kafir school. It doesn't make sense. We say that if I lived in the time of Lut, I would leave. Don't we say that? Who don't say that? When you read the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, you say, man, I'd have packed my trash. We'd have been on the first thing smoking. Well, where you live? It ain't just Atlanta. Right? No, seriously.
No.
So why are you here then? Now, if you say, well, because I'm saving my money and I'm packing my stuff and I'm doing my research, okay, fine. But if you settling down ready to die here, you know, may Allah protect you. You know, may Allah protect you, but it's not a good plan. What makes you different than the prophets? And they had to make hijrah when they faced similar situations. Why are we so, you know, we say we're not like Bani Israel, right? We don't hear and then refuse. But isn't that what we're doing? We refuse to look at hijrah as a solution. But every other solution is going to fail. You are not going to overwhelm these kuffar. Why? Because the Muslims are not united against the kuffar. Do you think the religious elite made hijrah here? Made immigration here? No. Their buddies got here. The ones that helped them overthrow the Muslim lands, some of them got to come. Not all of them. Not everybody. I'm not trying to make it seem like immigrants are no good. But I'm just saying that there is a different tone. They're not going to help you establish Islam here. So then we're divided. Well, guess what? You're in a minority. Accept it. So what should you do? Fight? Well, that's an option. But are you really willing to do that? Is that what Allah told you? من يرى منكم المنكر فيغيره بيده فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه فإن لم يستطع فبقلبه. So if you can't change it with your hands, if speaking out against it's going to cause you harm, pack your trash and go someplace else. Don't you know that the world of Allah is huge? And He made it spacious enough for you to go anywhere? That the cost of living in some of the better countries is half that of the United States? And the quality of life is better? But we don't believe that. Why? Because we believe the da'wah of the cookies. Yeah. It's better here. Didn't you know the streets are paved with gold? You get more money to be here, but you spend more too. So if you really want to do something, find some place where you can practice your deen and not have the pressures that you have here. And leave this place for those who want it. Wa alaikum assalam.
Somebody's been standing outside that door for over 10 minutes, and I want to find out what the...
Is it a man? Go check it out.
It's a shadow standing right
Hassan, go.
I think it's a lady.
Go
She's
check it
the
out.
lady that was over there.
Go check it out, man. Find out what the deal is. You the
You
big guy, man.
know what they're going to court. You know, they're doing stuff these days.
Yeah.
They just moved. They probably told I saw something about them. They were standing there for over 10 minutes. I couldn't...
Nah.
You don't know everything that's going on these days.
It's okay. It's no problem. No, let the brother go.
That's her son.
Oh, it's her son. Okay, cool. Mhm. Okay. Okay, so Hajrul Turfa, leaving off the what they call the delicacies of life, you know, leaving off things that the excesses, being excessive. Some of us have more clothes than kings have. Seriously.
It's true.
You know, if you were to look at all the clothing that you have, you would see that you have excess. Okay? What's the standard? Go back to the Quran and the Sunnah. 2 outfits for every season. That's the Islamic standard. Some of the ladies are like, oh! Now, I think that, you know, you could stretch that for the ladies, you know, something. And also, of course, men who have jobs that demand you wear a particular uniform, of course, those things are like that. And plus, here in North Carolina, where you have 4 different seasons, you need 4 different types of feet, you know.
Only
in
8
that.
we should have.
Sorry?
So only 8 we should have.
Well, it depends. You know, if you need 8,
Minimum.
you know, in those things. But you get the point.
No.
If you would minimize it to what you need and what you're actually using, you know, and take those clothes that you haven't worn for the last 6 months.
Exactly.
You know, not take them to, what is that place?
Goodwill.
Don't take them there. They sell them. Why don't we have our own sadaqah box? Because we're lazy. You know, we say we want, but nobody's willing to do. You know, we should. How many Muslims come to me, and new Muslims who want thobes, who want khimars, who don't know where, they'll buy them. They'll take our old ones, okay? But we don't have to give to them. We don't have enough, or we don't have the money to send it to them. These are realistic things that we can do. Every time I go to Africa, I see them running around looking like Kafirs. Why? Because the Kafirs bring them clothes. Why aren't we clothing our people? Okay? Why? Why are there all these other groups there except for the people who are connected to them? You get my point? Because we are not thinking about being practical and actually acting. We're sitting here complaining and blaming. Okay, and there's another reason. It says staying away from wasteful sittings. Al-lagwi is from the word lugha, language, but it means speech and conversation that is wasteful. What is that talking about?
No benefit.
Just
Nonsense. But what type of sittings are those?
Like when you back, like
You say when you backbite. That's true. What else?
talking about a game.
He's talking about games. You see this? It's talking about those all grown men. Dun, 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 dun. Man, what's manly about that? I'm seriously, what did you gain out of that? What benefit? What job skill? What did you know, what's that? It's a waste of mental energy. And it takes away from your manhood. I'll tell you another major one. Tell a lie to your vision. Some of these programs where you have to suspend your reality in order to enjoy it because it's not real. And it's no benefit. Oh man, I can name all the Avengers. Can you name all the people going to Jannah? From the Sahaba? You know? I'm talking about Mubashirun. That's not all of them, but you get my point? Can you name as many of them as you can name these fake actors? They're not real. And we sit around talking about these things, memorizing them when you could have been memorizing history, which is real, which you can emulate. Does that make sense? So staying away from these wasteful sittings, which makes you a conscientious activity person in your life, where you think about what you're doing before you do it. Oh, let's go watch the new Avengers. No. Why? Because it's stupid. Oh, but there's a good theme. What's the guy, they had this one thing where the guy goes back like this? The
Matrix.
The Matrix, right? Everybody said, watch this Matrix. Why? Oh, it's like Jesus. Are you serious? Now, I never saw the program, alhamdulillah. Okay? But, you know, you see the parts of it while just on the internet, right? Are we serious going to relate that to having some type of spiritual benefit? As opposed to sitting down and memorizing Quran, learning the history and how it applies. World history is Islamic history. If you didn't know that, remember what we did during Ramadan, when we tied the Surah Al-Buruj, okay? And we tied it to Surah Al-Fil. And we show how the whole world is contained in the Quran. What is history except the history of the Prophet? That's real history, right? Yeah. From the beginning of time all the way through. And then what we can find of that history is determined and find the real reasons behind these things that happen. You'll find that in 90%, and I'm not making up this percentage, it was over Islamic issues. In holding down and fighting the Muslims. And add to that the Christians. What was the Spanish Inquisition all about? What did they tell you in American schools? Nobody knows? You don't remember what they told you about the Spanish Inquisition? No, not the conquistadors. We're talking about the Spanish Inquisition where they were torturing the Christians. Right? They told you that. But the Spanish Inquisition, if you think about it, when you study the history, who was in power? Muslims. The Muslims. The Moors were ruling in Spain. Who were the Moors and why do they use that term? They use that term to hide the fact that they were Muslims. And they use the term Moors to call them mixed people. Why? Because they were not of one ethnicity. They were Bosniak, they were Greek, they were Turkish, they were Arab, they were Kurdish, and they were African. So they couldn't call them one group, so they called them Moors. To hide the fact that they had over 800 years ruling in Spain. And so the Spanish Inquisition was to get their Aqidah out of there. And any Christian who dared follow monotheism along with them. So they only tell you that last part. And they don't mention the other part. They just act like the Moors just disappeared.
They don't want you to mention it in Morocco.
Why? Because they don't want you to know the true history. One of the things that the Masonic Order, they put out, we want a generation that does not know their history. So we can tell them anything. And in the absence of history, we replace it with the Avengers. We replace it with Star Trek and all the series. So hey, that's what you know as opposed to why World War I started. Okay? That's what you know before you know the consequences of World War II. This is what you know. And it's not as exciting as the video. Does that make sense? So it's very important that a conscientious person is careful about what he puts in his brain and who's giving him the information. Allah tells us to do this. What does he say? إِذَا جَاءَكُمْ فَاسِقٌ. Don't whisper at me. I might think you want to ask me out. Come on, later.
إذا جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبين.
Nah, barakallahu fikum. I'm only teasing you. If a facet comes to you, what is a facet? We covered it in Tafseer.
Wrong or evil person.
That's too general. Then you might Bush says that, or what is it? What's Trump says that?
A person that sins in public.
An open public sinner. Okay? Someone who is shameless. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Everybody clear? We can have a clear definition. Evil is too general. Evil is what the other guy calls the other guy. Right? Like radical. Right? And what's the definition? The other guy. So an open sinner is clear. Right? So if he comes to you with any news, then clarify. Make sure you understand it first. So that's why we should not take in all this other information without filtering it with the truth. Okay? Yes? No?
Yes.
Al-i'radu an hayshat. You know, al-hayshat, again, a whole bunch of noise, nonsense. Okay? At-tahalli bil-rifq, being gentle with each other. Ta'ammul, to sit around and contemplate. The Prophet ﷺ was quiet for 4 reasons. One of them was he was contemplating. What is contemplating? Deep thought. About what? Deep thought about what?
What happens in the past?
What either happened in the past or what you're going to do in the future, right? Does that make sense? Yes. So we're not just sitting there zoned out, you know, drooling. Your mind is active. You're sitting there and you're controlling your imagination and you're thinking and considering what should I do based on what is actually happening. Okay, and that is the best. Take that out of her mouth. She got that pencil, she might fall. Okay, so الثبات والتثبت, and being firm and seeking the ways to be firm by constantly adding more information to your repertoire so it becomes knowledge, right? You have more that you can pull from. Okay, al-ilm al-ibadah. So some of these things that I wrote down, these are the things it says here. Al-ilm al-ibadah, this is an Jabir radiallahu anhu. He says, وَلَا تَعَلَّمُوا الْعِلْمَ لِتُبَاهُ. So here it says, in this hadith, it says, don't study knowledge to be argumentative with the ulama, or to, to argue with foolish people, or to become bold and make people's faces arrested to you. So if you do that, so it's the fire, okay? So it says here, be salafi means follow their understanding. Meaning, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. It says, by sticking to the true fear of Allah, it means that the only ones that actually fear Allah, those people who worship Him. I mean, the people who have knowledge, okay? They're the only ones that always worship Him properly. Lowering your wing to being gentle to the Muslims means having dignity and firmness against the kuffar. Okay? And not the opposite way around. Does that make sense?
That's how it is nowadays.
It says, al-kibr, al-takabbur, ba'idayni anhu. You should always be thinking about what is real and what is the reality, what is actually going on. Al-qina'a, meaning being pleased with what you have. I'm just going through my notes. Run up if you say. Okay. Rawnaq said, when it says rawnaq al-ilm, I said act like you have some class. Rawnaq is like the glitter of a sword. Okay? The shine of a sword. The shine of a sharp sword, when you see that, that puts fear in you, right? If a guy pulls out an old rusty sword, you're like, okay, maybe he might beat me to death with that thing, right? But if he pulls out a sharp sword and it glitters, and you see the shine on the edge, that's called the rawnaq. Okay, what does that do for you when you see that? Anybody?
Fear.
Puts fear in your eyes because you respect that sharpness, right? Now, he's saying here, in one of my notes, it says that's what he explained about having rawnaq al-ilm, that it shines, you can see it on you. Okay? Inshallah ta'ala. Al-muru'a is have character, shakhsiyya. Okay? That's what that is right there. And it says here, إذا قيل إذا جلست إلى عالم فاسأل تفهما لا تعنتا. It says when you sit with someone of knowledge, then only ask questions in order to understand, not to argue, not to debate the issue, but to understand it. Now, understanding it, is understanding agreement?
No.
Remember this, right? Seek first to understand and then to be understood. This is a very important quality, and it's from the qualities of Islam. Seek first to
understand.
Say it again.
Seek first to understand.
Then to be
Understood.
It's vital and important because I understand what you're saying. And how do I show I understand? By rephrasing it. So you're saying that you should be in charge because you are 5'10" and I'm 5'2". Okay? Is that correct? Yes, that's what I understand. Okay, I disagree. Now, you see what happened? And before I said I don't want to hear what you got, I showed I understand. When you show the person that you understand, they are satiated. Now they're open to hear from you. Because what will happen if they don't hear that you understand where they're coming from? They're going to keep telling, no, you don't understand. And they're going to tell you another way. And they're going to tell you another way. Partly because people think understanding means agreeing. Okay? Because I understand what you said doesn't mean that I agree. So sometimes we say, no, I don't understand, and we fully understand. But we're afraid to say that we understand because we think ourselves, if I say I understand, that he's going to think or she's going to think that I agree, which is not the case. You can understand, but not agree. Understand that, guys? Yes. What do you understand? That's why I asked. You get the point? Now you see, you get it. What do you understand? I have to pick one, Ahmed. Come on, Ahmed, you're the next teacher. Don't whisper.
What do I understand about?
What do you think I'm talking about?
Can I have a mouth?
Yes, help me.
I understand what you said, but I don't agree with what you said.
How do you show that you understand? Not wise. How do you show you understand?
Show you understand by acknowledging that you understand, and then
No.
By rephrasing.
Okay. Thank you.
You repeat what he said, and then you begin to bring in.
To his satisfaction. Okay? Because let's say, I think yellow and black pens look like a bee. What do you say? Explain to me.
Well, yellow and black pens.
No, you already, show me you understand. Show me first that you understand what I mean.
Yellow and black pens look like a bee?
Yes.
Well, bees are yellow and black. However, there are pens that are red, blue, and many different colors, and they all have different ink. You showed a bunch of my.
No, but you see what he did first? First he showed me that he understands. So you saying that, yellow and black pens look like bees, okay? We get it. That's how you do it. You not by saying, oh, I understand. Everybody can say that. But show me that you understand by rephrasing what I said, okay? To make me understand that, okay, you got it. Now you can say whatever you want to after that, because now I'm open to listen. Because if you don't show me that, I'm saying, no, you missed it. You see the body of the pen is like this and the bee is like that. And we go on and on and on and on, not going anywhere. So, seek to understand, then to be understood. Okay, so then he says here also, Tamatta bi khilasat al-rujula. Again, there's another portion that I got here. This is a statement of Ibn al-Qayyim. I'm writing here. It's what have the characteristics of manhood, like shuja'a, being brave. Okay, the bravest man in the world was Abu Bakr after the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, understand that. The bravest man in the world was Abu Bakr. Well, makarim al-akhlaq, having no, generosity and good akhlaq. Spending in a way to show to be good. And doing things until the person who is not a real man gives up hope of being like you.
Say that again, please.
Doing things until the person who is not a real man or not a real woman, they just give up hope. They can't follow that. This man, I can't live up to that. That's what you're not trying to show something to them, but you're living in a way. I'll show you, for example. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, when the Prophet ﷺ told them to give sadaqah, what did Abu Bakr as-Siddiq do? He gave everything. I'm paying rent now. It's my house now. I'm going to pay rent. Giving it all to you, Rasulullah ﷺ. Now, Umar was always in competition with Abu Bakr, so he thought, right? He said, man, I'm going to try to outdo my buddy, which is a good competition. Stabiqu khairat. Race to all that's good. Okay, Allah says in the Quran. And so he came and he gave half. I got Abu Bakr now. I'm going to give half of what I own. When he found out that Abu Bakr gave everything, he gave up. Man, I can't catch. I can't hang with that cat. I don't even believe that we're on the same level no more. That's what he said. Umar. Does that make sense? And so that's what it's referring to here. Be everything. Fully embodied. As Allah says, Udkhulu fi silmi kaffatan. All the way, like we used to say back in the day, be down like 4 flat tires. Okay? All the way down. No halfway. You in it to win it with everything you got for Allah. Does that make sense? And watch out for the things that take away from your knowledge. Min ضعف الجحش, not having enough emotion, not being emotionally tied to the issue. You don't care. وقلة الصبر, and not having any patience. وضعف المكارم, not being generous or noble enough. Not big enough. فإنها تهدم العلم, because these things destroy knowledge. And وتقطع اللسان عن قوله الحق, and it prevents the tongue from speaking the truth. These things right here. Not being emotionally tied to it enough. Okay? Not having enough patience. Patience is not the American word patience here. A sabr is trying, not giving up. Consistently and making effort step by step to make it happen. Even if it takes 100 years. The turtle wins the war, right? Wins the race, I should say. Not the hare. You run and he stops. No, the turtle keeps going.
It's a marathon.
He keeps going. It is a marathon. To your last breath, you're giving it up. I say die broke. What does that mean?
Giving you all you got.
You gave everything you got. Everything, every energy, every penny, everything you got, you gave it up. Ain't that what you want to do? Or you want to hold it? You can't use it now. And it don't go to the bank where you can use it later. So it's best to spend everything you got fi sabilillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the only way you're really going to live. The true life. It's only shaitan telling you hold back till tomorrow. Because you maybe don't got tomorrow. And if you get in the habit of holding back, then we got you. Procrastination sets in. Right?
What about when a man spends everything he has and says that his children can make their own?
What about the man who spends everything he has and says that his children can make their own? When I say spend everything you got, it doesn't mean just for yourself. Part of it is the conscientious adult is the what? The competent adult is the? Aware of every ruling on?
Whatever he wants done.
The Prophet ﷺ said, and a third is a lot. The Prophet ﷺ said he told Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas radiyallahu anhu. Sa'ad was like, yo, I'm going to spend all my money. I think I'm going to die, so I'm going to spend everything, give it up. Nah, why you leaving your children broke? Rather leave them with something, the Prophet ﷺ said, so that then they have to run around and asking people for stuff. You're destroying your heritage, your lineage. Looking at the situation we are when they destroyed Durham, when they destroyed Tulsa, how that affected the whole place. Every city in America got a Chinatown. You get my point? But we don't have that. So then we're cut off from that. So for the person who's spending, also from that spending, is setting his children up. Setting them up and educating them to know how to use that money. Okay? Not giving a butter knife to a fool, because you give a butter knife to a fool, he's going to cut somebody. You give money to a man that don't know how to use it, he's going to spend it. Right? And he's not going to know what to do with it. So to spend your effort yourself is in encouraging and in teaching and giving da'wah to them so that they can have, so that they can appreciate it. Does that make sense? Yeah. When I grew up, we had maids in my mother's house, in my parents' house. Them maids didn't do nothing for us. And I used to say, one time, me and my brother was like, let's go ask. How come they don't do? My mom said, that's my maid. And the maid was looking at us. They used to look at us like, what you looking at? Like, man, does everybody else got maids like this? And they used to make us do the work. But they was teaching us. They were teaching us. Just because you got money don't mean you got money. You get my point? You're going to have to stand on your own 2 feet when you get out of here. So that was a good, and so we used to like, man, one time we went to my father, why don't you go work for the post office? So-and-so, his father worked for the post, he got 5 pair of sneakers. My father said, you better get out of my face. He was, what do we know, right? So this become, at that time my father was a state director for interstate commerce for New York. So I'm saying, yo, why don't you go work for the post office, old man? We could get some more sneakers. So, boy, you don't get out of my face. But the point is, I appreciate that now, that my parents taught us how to stand on our own. Okay? The childhood, the purpose of the childhood is the same purpose for education. And what is that?
Teach them how to be independent.
To enable the child or the student to get along
Without the teacher.
without the parent. The teacher is just an extension of parentage. If you look at the laws of teachers in schools, the teacher is an extension of the parent. That's why we have capital punishment in schools. Okay? Well, I'm saying us. You know, that's why they did it. They had that. You know, because the teacher, the principal, is an extension of the home. Okay? And in Islam, the Shaikh is considered like an uncle. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, you know, here is to enable the student or the child to get along without the parent. Not to spoil them. Not to give little so-and-so everything. This is going to make him a bad child. And a bad child's going to develop bad habits, or spoiled child's going to develop bad habits, and those bad habits are going to become bad character. That's just the way it goes. And also understanding the Sharia. When does the child become an adult? When do the females become an adult? Puberty. Do we raise them to be adults at that age? Or do we raise them to be 8 years later, maybe, or 6 years later to be adults, and wonder what the hell's wrong with them? Because we did not raise that child to be an adult at the time Allah told him that he's an adult. When is a male child adult? At the latest time? 15. Do we raise our young men to be adults? Or now 21 is the new 15, right? Yep. No, seriously. But if you let that child know that by 15 he is adult, he is mukallafun, responsible in every way his actions call on him to blame, you know, then that'd be a difference. So we're the problem because we're not preparing them in an aged, appropriate time frame. Does that make sense? Yeah. The last one, it says here, be careful and to be Abba Shibr. Abba Shibr is someone that takes a piece of this, a piece of that, a piece of this, a piece of that. Okay? And Awulu Takabba.
Is that good?
No, that's bad. I mean, it's like you start this, then you leave it. And you go do something else. Then you never finish it. You got all of this, but you never finish anything. A person is what he accomplishes.
Like this is jack of all trades, and then you master.
It's okay to be a jack of all trades because a jack means you know how to do it. You know, because then that makes something. You know, being versatile is okay. Right. I don't want to use that particular phraseology because it's used in a way that's opposite to what I intend. But what I mean by Abba Shibr, he hasn't perfected anything. What can he do? Qimatul rajul, qimatul mar'i ma ahsana. Ali ibn Abi Talib said, the measure of a person is what they're excellent at. What can they bring to the table? What can you bring to the table? We've stopped having people that have skills. Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu, he said, whenever I saw a fatah, a young person, you know, I would have, you know, be the apple of my eye, so to speak. It would be shining, and I want to get to know him, new young guy. And then as soon as I find out that this person has no skills, they drop him. I don't want to see him no more. Because it would make me sick. See this young, healthy, intelligent person not skillless, can't do nothing? Oh, that's a baby. Does that make sense? So we have, and again, this comes from da'wah. The kuffar da'wah is all genital. Manhood is genital and muscular, right? And has nothing to do with heart and head. Does that make sense? So the guy becomes a guy and a woman becomes a woman because what they can do with their genitalia. We have to stop that da'wah and reverse it and put it back to the sunnah. And that is what is between your ears and behind your eyes. What's in your chest. That's the person. You know, what can you do? What do you bring to the table? I don't need any more children that I got to take care of that's grown people. You know what I'm saying? That's Abba Shibr. So as soon as he enters into something, he goes someplace else and does something else. And then he thinks he knows something. And so it says, and Ali ibn, I just said what he says here, what I wrote here. قِيمَةُ كُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا يُحْسِنُهُ. He said that the measure or the preciousness of every person is what they can do. وَقَدْ قِيلَ لَيْسَتْ كِلْمَةٌ أَعَضَّ عَلَى طَالِبِ الْعِلْمِ مِنْهَا. And it says, and there's not a statement harder, more encouraging for a talib al-ilm than this statement right here. Okay? That the measure of a person is what he brings to the table. But all these people in this land, for as long, we should be able to have a convention, right? And each one of us set up a booth and teach a particular skill to perfection, right? You get my point? And it all be connected. And we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay? And that's what we're supposed to be doing. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. The only other thing that there's a few things here. We'll stop here. Okay? As for your homework for the weekend, we will be back here Wednesday, inshallah ta'ala. Next Wednesday is our next class. We do not have class on Monday. Next Wednesday is our next class. For the weekend, what I would like you guys to do is to organize your papers from the introduction that we gave and the 3 usuls that I gave you as the 3 poems with your explanation. Have them ready to hand them in as reports for me on Wednesday. Okay, I will collect them and I will be giving you back all the other papers that you gave me. And I will repair. Don't not show up because we come look for you. Okay? Inshallah ta'ala. But please have those ready, even if it's incomplete, bring what you're up to. Because that's the trick. Oh, I'm not finished. No. Bring what you have.
With the explanation, you say, right?
Yes, right. You have to have it, or it has to be a little book. Okay? So, enjoy your Eid.
The 3 usuls.
One second.
I'm not talking about adab.
No, I'm not talking about the adab. I'm not talking about the adab of the talib al-ilm. Okay, the usul al-adab. No, I'm talking about the first set. We're in part 2. We finished part 1, didn't we? Okay, I want part 1 written out and explained. Okay? Everything except for your picture of the tree, because I'll bring that back for you to add to it. But everything up to that, your introduction, everything you got for your introduction that you wrote out, that's going to be your book, and the 3 usuls that we have. What is the first usul? Maqasid al-Sharia, right? And what's the second one? Qawaid al-Fiqhiyya, right? Now, primary principles of fiqh. What's the third one? 5 ahkam plus 2. I want those 3 poems written out and you explain them. Okay? However you like to. Let's see what you bring to it. You can add to it. You can bring what I said, but it's got to be in written form by Wednesday. Does that make sense? And anybody just came to the class today, you got a lot of work to do. Okay? No one gets a break. Because we have AC, fans. We can do this. Yes, not left hand. No left hands. Yes, sir. Well, then you need to talk to your classmates then. Because if they can't teach it by now, I wasted my time. Or they wasted theirs. Does that make sense? Yeah. And the point of this class is that at the end of it, everyone can teach it.